Hundreds of Sydney-siders have been ordered out of their homes this morning as the city faces its worst flooding in 20 years and the State Emergency Service deals with the biggest crisis in its history. Storm surges and high tides have exacerbated flooding in low-lying areas of the city, with residents in the southwest, western outskirts and northern beaches told to leave their properties. Weekend downpours saw waterways become raging torrents, while roads often looked more like rivers.
The State Emergency Service says it's had more than 10,000 call-outs and thousands of homes are still without power across New South Wales. An SES volunteer had to be treated by paramedics after being bitten by a snake while evacuating a family from floodwaters. We're joined by reporters Lara Himes in Narrabeen and Antoinette Collins in Milperra. Good morning to both of you. Lara, can I start with you? What are the conditions like at the moment?
Well, Lisa, if you just had a look at the vista behind me, you'd think that what I'd be telling you wasn't quite true. At the moment, the water levels in Narrabeen going into the lagoon are sitting just under 1 metre. But in the last 24 hours, those floodwaters actually double, getting up to 2 metres. Now, that's what's caused the evacuation order just on the homes in the southern parts of the Narrabeen lagoon. That was last night. Those low-lying areas were absolutely saturated by some of the water coming in from the ocean and also those deluges that were coming through and that rainfall. Overnight, some stations around the metropolitan area received more than 200 millimetres of rain. So Lucas Heights, we also had Badgerys Creek and also Holsworthy, some of those stations receiving some of those high falls. We actually know as well that there's been a lot of road closures because there have been falling trees. Sydney to Wollongong, that road, that access point had been closed in both directions. 38 schools will be closed today because of the effects of that torrential rain that we had overnight. We also heard from the SES this morning, 115,000 homes were without power. Those SES crews working to restore power to as many homes as possible. They say that they've got all crews out this morning trying to help those people. And they said they received 7,000 calls for help from people in the metropolitan area. That figure actually escalated to about 10,000 calls for help just around the state. So many services working today to try to get business as usual and resume those services to many of the people who have been affected by these conditions.
Oh, and so many of them volunteers that are doing this work. They're really being stretched. Antoinette, what about you? You're in Milperra?
That's right. We're in Milperra. We're in the city's southwest and on the banks of the Georges River, which peaked this morning at around 5.3 metres. And now that's exceeded flood levels not seen since 1988. So 32 years since the river has come this high up. And I'll just show you, you might think we're on the banks of the river right here, but we're quite a way inland, although it feels like we are literally on the bank of the river right where we're standing now. There's the Milperra Golf driving range there with adventure golf. So very adventurous, I suspect, if anyone tried to play some golf there today. And on this main road, a lot of the cars have been blocked off. Roads across the area, Milperra, Liverpool, Chipping Norton and surrounding suburbs are closed off. Some people have been driving through though, but unfortunately the car behind me wasn't so lucky and that's been standing there this morning. So quite a lot of delays, especially for commuters along this main stretch of road into the city here. And we've heard of massive delays in the M5 as well as commuters try and get their way into the city this morning.
Antoinette, Paul Bailey was not happy this morning, the SES Assistant Commissioner, saying that 200 people had to be rescued from cars because they'd driven into floodwaters. What's the warning for people today as they start moving around?
Well, the warning is to stay away if you don't need to be here. We have seen a lot of people driving by, onlookers trying to see what's happening. And some people have driven through this water here behind me this morning, albeit in rather large sort of four-wheel drive cars. But the message is stay at home. If you don't need to travel, don't, because firstly, it's a lot of roads closed because of the flooding, and secondly, it's going to be very difficult to get around. As Lara mentioned, a number of schools in the area are also closed, so the advice is to just stay away and not take that risk. Although the rain has since eased and is moving further south, but a number of centres to the further southwest of us around Picton have also seen immense flooding in some of those townships around there. So the Don't go on the roads if you don't need to, is the message, really.
It is going to be a tough couple of days. Lara, Antoinette, thanks for joining us.